CNN has learned President Biden plans to slap more sanctions this week on hundreds of Russians serving in the country's lower legislative body, setting off what's expected to be a slew of new steps to punish Russia. Biden, here in about an hour, is heading to Europe for a series of global summits tomorrow on confronting Russia's unprovoked war against Ukraine. So let's talk about this now with Senator Angus King. He is a member of the Intelligence and Armed Services Committees, and he also just returned from Poland and Germany, where he met with Ukrainians, he met with NATO leaders, and he also met with refugees as well. Senator, I thank you so much for being with us.
Sure.
It sounds like this trip may be of huge consequence, and we've gotten some hints about more sanctions, hints of some sort of change maybe to force posture. What can Biden announce?
Well, I think you're right. I think this trip is a big deal, and I'm sure there will be additional sanctions. And the question is, what the Ukrainians need more than anything else right now is anti-aircraft. Not necessarily a no-fly zone, because the problem in Ukraine is coming from missiles and artillery, not from airplanes. So a no-fly zone really wouldn't accomplish that much in terms of protecting them. But we're moving in anti-aircraft from various NATO countries, including the U.S., Stinger missiles, but they only go up their helicopter, basically. They won't hit airplanes high in the sky, and they don't take out missiles. So I think those are the kinds of things that are going on. What's happening, Brianna, is that it's dawning on the world that Ukraine can win this war. And so that's going to up the ante, I think, and it's going to put more pressure on Putin.
That force posture, though, we've seen U.S. troops dramatically increase. There weren't a ton in terms of how many were there, but it's gone from 4,000 to 10,000. That's quite an increase. Do you see that changing? Do you see that diminishing anytime soon?
Not anytime soon, because those troops aren't in Ukraine. They're along the eastern border in the Baltic states and in Poland, and they're really a deterrent. They're a signal to Putin: don't go into NATO. Don't cross the border into the Baltic states or into Poland, because we're building forces there that will resist. And I think one of the things that this war has shown is the weakness of the Russian army, which, people, they're 10 feet tall. Well, they aren't. They're being stopped essentially by a much smaller force of Ukrainians. The Russians have almost their whole army in this fight.
Yeah, they're not 10 feet tall. They're raiding mini marts, and as we understand it, have some frostbite at this point in time, and morale is low. It's a very different scene. I want to ask you, the Russian ambassador to Indonesia, and he's the one who said this because the G20 is in November in Indonesia. He said Putin wants to go. Should the U.S. and other G20 countries wants to go to the G20 summit? Should the U.S. and other G20 countries boot Putin out?
Yes. Yes. The G20 is a group of countries that work together on economic issues and resolve issues peacefully and through international processes. And Russia's thrown all that out the door. So I think absolutely this is what he's done. Ironically, is solidified the Ukrainian identity. They will never integrate with Russia now. They can't stand Russia or Putin. Plus, he's unified the West. And he's making Russia a pariah nation. And I think we should help him in that process.
Next step, maybe cyber, because the FBI says hackers associated with the Russian government have begun to probe U.S. energy companies. What are you expecting here? And at what point would a Russian cyber attack elicit a conventional warfare response?
The second question, there's no clear answer to, because cyber conflict is so new. There's no definition of what is an act of war, what would constitute a response. Clearly, I think there needs to be a response. It could be cyber for cyber. It could be greater sanctions. Here's the important thing. I really think the administration's done the right thing by announcing these probes. Normally, the intelligence community holds this information close. And the fact that we've announced it publicly, now the private sector, those energy companies, financial, energy, electric companies, the grid, they're on notice, and they've really got to buckle down on their protection. Brianna, cyber defense starts at the desktop. 85% of cyber attacks work through phishing emails. Somebody in the system hitting an email that says Google says you got to change your password. That's where the defense has to start. So I think the administration announcing these probes is absolutely the right thing to do. Now the private sector has to step up and really expand their cyber protection activities.
Putin's top spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, will not rule out using nuclear weapons in the case of an existential threat. That's what he called it, to Russia. Right. Do you think the U.S. has a good understanding of what constitutes an existential threat to Vladimir Putin?
Well, it's regime change for sure, and it's attacks on the homeland. The problem is they define at the beginning of this conflict Ukraine as part of the ancestral homeland. So you get into those kinds of parsing phrases. But here's the real problem. They view, the Russians have a different view of nuclear weapons than anybody else in the world that has them, including us. They view nuclear weapons as part of their arsenal. Just, you got tanks and artillery and nuclear weapons. And they have a doctrine that's announced called escalate to de-escalate. And what that means is if we're losing on the battlefield, we'll use nuclear weapons to kind of level the playing field and force our adversaries to negotiate. That's a terrifying prospect because our view is a nuclear weapon is a nuclear weapon. And if it's a tactical, a smaller outcome, that's still a nuclear weapon. Ronald Reagan says nobody wins a nuclear war. And we've sort of been away from the threat of nuclear war for a while. And I think that people haven't really fully grasped the enormity of what this kind of exchange would mean. So this is why we've got to be careful. Vladimir Putin at this moment is the most dangerous man in history. He's an autocrat. He's a tyrant. He's aggressive. He wants to expand his country through a force, and he has nuclear weapons, the second largest stockpile in the world. And so this is an exceedingly dangerous moment. I just finished a book on the Cuban Missile Crisis. This is clearly, to me, the most dangerous moment our country has faced since the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, it's a different game with nuclear weapons. Senator Angus King, great to have you in studio. Thank you for being here.
Nice to be here.